This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Now, Sean, our Saturday show is all about, as always, the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, and then our favourite story. Now, Sean, you missed last week, obviously, because you were too busy sunning yourself on a beach in Fiji to take our call. So instead, Adam Lang stepped up, did a fantastic job, and we actually came away from it with a tie, thanks to our guest judge, business journalist Jennifer Duke. But, Sean, with you back on deck, Adam is back to being the fine, upstanding, impartial, completely ethical, unimpeachable adjudicator. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. I'm feeling very neutral, unswayable and balanced.
After all of that, you're feeling neutral and unswayable. God, what do I have to do?
Prosecute a very good argument, and then I'll rule in your favour.
I think it's great that you two did this last week. It was great that Jennifer Duke came on and was the arbitrator. But I'm going to have a word to Jen. She's fantastic, really smart person. She can't go for a 2-2 tie, though. I think we need a tiebreaker or something like that. Otherwise, it's too easy for the judge just to feel good to both of us.
Is that like how in the past where you've tried to take a half point or split a point from one that I've actually won just in order to ensure that you were a clear winner, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no. It's when you jumped in first and took my story, so I gave you a half point, being generous to you, when in actual fact you should have been disqualified. Oh, we've started already.
Gentlemen, let's not look backwards. Let's look forwards.
Well said, Adam. I always look to you as the voice of reason. So we'll jump into it. Sean, what do you think was the biggest story? And look how nice I'm being, letting you go first for the biggest story of the week. And I suspect I know what you're going to pick. So go for it. What's the biggest story?
This one is a bit of an easy one. This week, the Reserve Bank of Australia indicated that local interest rates could well rise this year and probably in June. Reserve Bank speak is an ancient art, Michael, studied by economists for many, many decades. Now, the changing of one phrase or even the dropping of one word can trigger billions of dollars of activity in financial markets, and that's exactly what happened this week. The Reserve Bank dropped its insistence that it will be patient, that's a word, patient, on interest rates and inflation. That was enough for the bond market to price in a cash rate of 1.75% by the end of the year. What's that mean for the rest of us? Well, if you've got a mortgage of $650,000, $700,000, you'll probably be paying about $1,000 extra in higher repayments by the end of the year. They're the monthly repayments. All the major banks, Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, National Australia Bank and ANZ, now expect a rate rise in June. It would be the first one in 12 years. That had big flow-on effects. It'll hit house prices. It hit bank share prices. It hit lots of other equities as well. I think this is a lay down misere. Biggest story of the week.
Oh, I do feel a little bit like the underdog going into this. But Adam, I know you love the underdog, so I'm going to give this a crack because I also think it's a little bit rich to say the biggest story is like a single word being dropped and the speculation that something might happen in the future. I'm going to talk about something that actually has happened and therefore is the biggest story. It's a little bit unorthodox. It's petrol prices. And I'm saying it's the biggest story because it is something that affects every single driver in the country, so many businesses as well. This week, petrol prices fell significantly, down by kind of 50 cents in some places. More than one reason, obviously, for the plummet. Obviously, there was the much hyped cut to the fuel excise in the budget, which happened the previous week. That takes off 22 cents per litre for the next 6 months. There's the falling cost of oil and the strengthening Aussie dollar. In some parts of the country, petrol prices fell from kind of $2.10 a litre to $1.60. I saw them yesterday for $1.54, which is quite incredible. That is a massive change. And sure, look, some people might be worried about interest rates rising, but it hasn't happened yet in terms of real world impact. This week, we did see petrol prices drop sharply. That has a massive effect on household budgets. So really, it is the obvious choice for biggest story of the week.
Okay, so this is tough because they are both very, very big stories. You know, a government willing to drop a fuel excise for 6 months, really as part of an election campaign and a budget. It's been affected by decrease in foreign exchange rates and also improve supply. So there's a few factors going on fuel prices. Then, Sean, channeling the ancient art of economists, brilliant, and dropping one word, patient. I have to say, I think the biggest story is interest rates. The reason being is that 6 months we'll see the end of fuel excise, but 6 months we'll just start to see the cutting in of the impact of interest rate rises, and they will be significant. So I have to give that one to Sean on the biggest story of the week.
Oh, look, that is actually reasonable. I do understand it, but it is why I shall now be known as Michael Underdog Thompson, because I feel like that is my role in this program.
Can you give yourself a nickname?
Michael can.
Yes, I just did.
Okay, Underdog, what's the most remarkable story? You can go first this time.
Well, thank you, because clearly I think that makes all the difference. The most remarkable story for me this week is the fact that 2.1 million Australians are now overdue for their COVID booster jab. The head of the rollout is blaming kind of confusion and complacency, particularly among people under 40. And I think that's probably why I think this is so remarkable, is because it is just extraordinary that you have any complacency at all when it comes to getting booster shots, because all you need to do is look at the case numbers right now. By the end of the week, we were seeing thousands and thousands of cases, including in states like WA and Tasmania, which have really kind of avoided these huge numbers in the past. So really, it's a pretty kind of short and sweet entry from me here, Adam, for this category. I just find it remarkable that 2.1 million Australians haven't had boosters when this Omicron subvariant BA.2 is even more transmissible than normal Omicron, and it's now making up the bulk of cases. If that's not remarkable, I don't know what is.
It is remarkable. I agree with that. I got a pretty good entry into this category, though. This is the story that just keeps giving. It's the inquiry into whether the Star Gaming Group should keep its gaming licence in New South Wales. Each day this week threw up something new. Barely believable stories, in fact. We heard the group's CFO say that she knew gaming chips were a good way for people to transfer money, but nonetheless, patrons could take them out of the casino because it was difficult to stop. We heard that Star Entertainment Group provided fake source of funds letters to the Bank of China to allow deposits by high rollers to appear to have been earned by gambling. Fake source of funds letters from the Star Entertainment Group. It's a practice which the group's Chief Financial Crimes Officer, Sky Arnott, conceded constituted money laundering. We heard that Ms. Arnott probably put in the shredder a report she and other executives were likely given in 2019 that linked Sun City junket boss Alvin Chow to money laundering and triad gangs. We heard that the gaming group's legal team has been accused of incorrectly claiming legal privilege over documents and instructing other casino employees to say they were seeking legal advice and emails, even if they weren't, in order to, quote, shield them from production to the regulator. And finally, yesterday, the former group treasurer of the Star, Sarah Scopel, stepped down from her new job at Woolies after her recent testimony in which she admitted when she was at Star she misled National Australia Bank over money laundering by high rollers. What a story. It just keeps going. It is quite remarkable that this is actually coming out and it all happened. That's why I think it's the most remarkable story of the week.
This is another very, very tough call. The Star inquiry has been going on for a while now, and the revelations just keep coming. It is stunning, and as Sean says, remarkable. But I think the breadth of the impact of the COVID booster, 2.1 million Australians being overdue for their COVID booster, is bigger in terms of its impact on the country. Now, the reason I say that is we know that those infections are creeping up. And right now, this is not a personal story, but I happen to be in isolation. Our family's in isolation with one family member down with COVID right now, and we are fully boosted. So if people aren't boosted, I can honestly say from firsthand experience, it is worth not getting in the best way you can be prepared you can, so that 2.1 million Australians aren't boosted across the country. Please go and get boosted. So I have to say that is more remarkable in its impact on the country for this week. Michael, well done.
I like a quick response, Adam. I like a quick judgment. Thanks.
Michael wins.
Righto.
I think, Sean, you knew it was a bad sign when he addressed your story first.
Yeah. Whoever he says first,
Yep. Yep. It's just so you'll have to surprise us next time, Adam. Change things up a little bit. All right. We'll be back in a moment with the sleeper story of the week. All right, Sean, we are now looking for the sleeper story of the week. So the story that might not be getting the attention that it deserves or potentially will become a bigger issue further down the track. What do you think it was this week?
For me, it's the Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor wanting to force owners of coal-fired power stations to give 5 years' notice of closure to provide more stability to the national electricity market. Now, this is on the back of Origin Energy saying it would bring forward the closure of its Eraring power station by 7 years to 2025. That was earlier in the year. And then last month, billionaire Mike Cannon-Brookes and Canadian investor Brookfield bid unsuccessfully for AGL Energy, promising to close its remaining coal-fired power plants. Talk about swimming against the tide. This is the federal government talking about introducing legislation to slow the progression of renewables. I get the reasoning, reliability, affordability, security, etc. But surely the free market should sort that one out. Renewables are becoming cheaper and more efficient than coal-fired power plants. We need more renewables and we actually need to spend more money on renewables. That makes much, much more sense than legislating against renewables. This didn't get a lot of attention this week, the fact that the government wants to legislate against renewables. That's why it's my sleeper story of the week.
That is actually a really good sleeper story. I mean, it's not the best sleeper story of the week, but it is a really good one. So I like it. The best sleeper story this week is the one about Tesla. And for the first time, Elon Musk's company revealed its sales figures for Australia. So from January to March this year, about 4,500 Tesla electric vehicles were sold. Compare that to Toyota Hilux sales for the same period, nearly 15,000. Why is this a sleeper and why is it the best sleeper? Well, because it kind of exposes just how far we need to go to catch up with a lot of the world on electric vehicles. There's just so much noise around them, so many people talking about them, but in the end, only around 2% of vehicles sold in Australia at the moment are EVs. So it really says that we need to be doing more to improve the infrastructure around them, like charging stations, and considering the other incentives available to get people into EVs. The Tesla stats probably didn't get the attention they should have because if they did, they would have really just illustrated just how far we have to go because as a country, we are not living up to the hype yet around electric vehicles. See, sleeper story of the week. Do you agree, Adam?
Well, thank you both. I'm curious that you're picking the same theme really on new forms of energy and use. So in this case, I don't know that you can actually say that anything to do with Elon Musk is a sleeper story. It's just so high profile. Therefore, and I think this is equally as remarkable as much as a sleeper for the reasons you said, Sean, Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor saying that there should be legislation around a 5-year closure notice is also politically interesting. And I think in any other week, it would have got far more attention. So I have to say Sean wins the sleeper story for the week on that one. That means Sean is 2 and the challenger, the underdog, Michael, 1.
I'm really liking you more and more and more, Adam.
Don't overdo it.
Okay.
So the best I can hope for now is a draw. That's
probably the very best.
That's kind of gloomy going into the final category, isn't it?
Oh, yours might be so good you might get an extra star for your favourite story.
Ooh, bonus points.
Hang on, are you giving me a pity point as well?
Just being more condescending. I don't think pity. Condescending's a better word. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go for it because my favourite story. Look, if you heard Friday's show, then my favourite story of the week will not come as a surprise because I pretty much declared it during that show. It is the story about a Reserve Bank employee jetting off to London to make sure that Australia's gold reserves are where they're supposed to be and that they are in fact gold. Because Australia has about 80 tonnes of gold. It's stored in the Bank of England's vaults. That's about 6,500 gold bars sitting alongside 400,000 more gold bars. So I imagine it's probably easy to get them all mixed up. But there's an LNP Senator, Jared Rennick, who's talked about a confidential memo from the RBA warning of the potential for fake bars. Luckily, though, the Reserve Bank is doing an audit, sending somebody over to London to personally check 10% of our gold to make sure it is in fact real. And you know what it reminded me of? I don't know if either of you have seen there's a new show on Netflix called Is It Cake? And basically, the entire premise of this show is they have really good bakers, fantastic bakers, and they bake cakes that look like life-like items. So you might have like a toaster or fruit and vegetables, and they're actually all made from cake. And guest judges, kind of like Adam, would have to go in and look at it from a distance and pick whether what they're looking at is in fact real fruit and vegetables or a real toaster, or whether it is in fact cake. And so now I'm picturing this Reserve Bank employee heading off to London, staring at it from a distance and having to decide whether in fact it is gold or it is in fact gold-coloured cake. It's probably not exactly how it's going to happen, but I'm going to stick with that one for a while, and that's why it's my favourite story of the week.
It is a great story, definitely. Pretty funny to think that you're actually going over to inspect the gold. Let me tell you about mine, Michael. It's a story all about scents, as in smells. Now, scientists from the University of Oxford and Karolinska Institute in Stockholm have found that vanilla is the world's favourite scent. What they did, researchers somehow put all the odours in the world together and came down to 10 scents, as in SCENTS, 10 smells that spanned the entire sphere of worldly odours. They presented them to 235 people from 9 different cultures, city dwellers, people that live in mountain regions in South America, all sorts of people. And then they ranked them. The 10 scents, the number 1 was vanilla. Then peaches, lavender, cloves, and rose. I get all that. Where it gets really interesting is the next 5. Mushrooms, I'm sure what they smell like. Sweaty goats was number 7. I definitely don't know what that smells like. Green peppers, which is after sweaty goats. Pungent garlic. And finally, sweaty feet. What a cracking story. Adam, are you laughing at that?
I am. They are both cracking stories, actually.
They are.
But in terms of a business context, I have to say that the story of scents was very interesting, but you regularly get polls, and this one was a fascinating one. But for me, the favourite, I'd had no idea there were that many bars of gold stored in England and that someone from the RBA was going to go over and inspect them. I think that has to win for my favourite story of the week. So regrettably, we have a draw. So can I suggest, given that you've got 2 each, can I suggest a tiebreaker?
Sure.
Okay. It's a lyric question related to one of the stories that was told during this podcast.
Here we go.
Okay. You need to guess the artist that sang the song. All right. So in Michael's story about cake.
So just before we go here, right? Michael's story, which was totally off beam about Kate, yeah. You just dropped the scent story because you wanted it to be more businessy. Now you're actually doing a tiebreaker about a song.
Yes.
Go on.
Well, this song did sell millions of copies. Did lots of business.
Yes.
Okay. So Michael mentioned it. I need you to name the artist. The first one to name the artist will win. Okay. In the story about cake, Michael said the term a few times, from a distance. Who sung the song From a Distance?
No clue. Michael, I concede. Do you have any clue?
That would be Bette Midler.
It would.
I just Googled it.
Cheat.
No, you didn't say I couldn't.
I'll have to qualify these rules.
He got it. You know, you want to change the rules, Adam, you got to live with the consequences.
I do.
You've got to put up with Michael gloating for the next week.
Yes, and to really enforce the point that Bette Midler helped him get there.
I'm happy to take the victory however it comes, but you two both must go now and watch Is It Cake on Netflix.
Okay, homework.
And report back next week. You will not regret it. All right, that's it. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
And thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
Don't forget, tomorrow, all three of us will be back to have a bit of a lighter look at some of the news around the place. Although this episode feels like it's actually getting a little bit lighter every week as we go. But join us tomorrow for our weekly podcast called Safe Word. It is a lot of fun. Don't miss it. I'm Michael Thompson. Have a great weekend.